Will Green on the Chat Show. This week we have some very special guests. I'm waiting for them to come on. Lisa and Sarah, and we're going to talk about autism today. I'm autistic, ADHD Tourette's, so if I swear, I'm not going to apologise because it is me and that's the way life is. And if there's anyone in this audience swears, it's okay because they're allowed to do so. It's free speech here. So then, I grew up with autism, and when I was a kid, it was all about he's just naughty. Believe it or not, in secondary school, I got caned 4 times for being naughty. The third time is the one I remember because I was sorting coloured squares into order and then got the cane for it for not doing my work. So give me an example of something like that from your experience, either yourself or one of your kids.
So I would say I was probably the opposite. I was the child that was sat in the corner that kind of went, below the radar. But I never kind of, if a teacher was at the front of the class, had no idea what they were saying. I had to go home and kind of research everything because I just didn't take anything in at all.
Wow.
And even at university, there was a guy that used to mow the grass at Birmingham University, and I would lose kind of half an hour, 3/4 an hour just watching him go round on the grass.
Well, I'd be counting the seconds he was walking for the steps.
It was wonderful.
Without question.
So I've just kind of, I've never quite felt good enough because I've never retained anything.
Right, okay. Is that why you couldn't remember my name earlier on?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Just, but yeah, for me it's like a sweet grabber is kind of in my head.
Yeah.
And I know the answer's there somewhere, but it comes down, on a good day, the sweet grabber might come grab something and bring it out. On others it's just there swinging about and there's absolutely nothing. But I do know it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
What about yourself?
I remember once, I think I was about 8 or 9 and it was wet playtime and everybody was just up to mayhem and I just stood by the sink painting the sponges. So I painted one side brown and the other side white to make it look like bread. And I was really impressed with it, and when the teacher came back and I said, look what I've done, she went absolutely ballistic at me.
It's unreal, isn't it?
Bawled me out. I went home and sobbed for hours because I thought I'd done something really creative.
So looking back now then, on your 2 experiences, how does that make you feel now to how you were treated back then?
I mean, sad.
Yeah.
I think it's sad that children are still being made to feel the same way.
Yeah.
I think that, there was kind of no awareness. I had no idea that I was autistic. So there's kind of, you kind of go, oh, okay, you can make excuses, can't you, for how you felt as a child because nobody knew. But people know now, and still, we're still making children feel the same way.
We
that's
are
really,
indeed.
really sad.
But on the back of that,
I was going to say there is awareness now and it's still happening.
on the back of that, you two created something amazing. So tell me about that again.
So, do you
Right,
okay, so we've
I want to hear from
done
both of you, so
yeah,
we're going to keep going.
So I was going to say, we've always kind of done things a little bit separately. So we've known each other for quite a few years now.
10 years now.
10 years. And my son found Sarah. So my son was 2 at the time, and he used to go up to Sarah in the school playground and just go blah, 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 like this because he's also autistic. And it was a couple of years later that we went to a support group together, and I said to Sarah, I don't even know if I need to be here because my son's on a waiting list. And Sarah went, yeah, you absolutely do. But that was it then, wasn't it? Many hours. So Sarah started with ADHD Allies. I started with so ADHD Allies, you can talk a bit about.
Yeah, I started up ADHD Allies about 5 years ago because my son was diagnosed when he was 7, he's 30 now, and there's still no support, and it just really gets to me that you get diagnosed and if you don't want medication you're discharged the same day. They don't tell you how to deal with it. So I've just been trying to raise awareness and support other people, adults, children, whoever needs it really. And that when I've done all my meetings, Lisa's always come along as backup. So
you work together now.
So right? So I was going to say we do Super SEN now is what we created from. So we did a group of through, and I did it was your self-navigated parenting with a neurodivergent brain, and we supported a group of 10 ladies at that point,
Yeah.
to kind of understand their brain and how that affects their parenting, and vice versa. And after the 5 weeks, it was meant to be a 5-week course, and then kind of off they go, you know, with this newfound knowledge. But we got to 5 weeks and they just went, well, you can't leave us now. What are you going to do with us now? And we were like, well, that was the plan. We were just, you know, we were done. We're just kind of, so we were like, well, what do you want? So we ended up saying, right, okay, let's do something together. Let's, you know, and we created Super SEN, and we created Super SEN CIC.
So is that a continuous thing now, or is it a block?
No, that is a continuous thing. That is something that we do drop-in sessions, don't we? Yeah. We do workshops. We do loads of different things. We've just had
holiday workshops as well, don't you?
We do. So we've just done an Easter event on the weekend, where, you know, lots of neurodivergent children and families come. About 85% of our parents are themselves neurodivergent. So you can't access a mainstream. If you think about going to an Easter egg hunt or something like that, it's managed.
So who funds you two then? Who funds it?
Nobody. Ourselves.
Nobody funds it.
We can't just say we've got big hearts but empty pockets. That's our strap line, really.
So businesses in Birmingham, I hope you're listening to this, because these are doing this most fantastic work and getting no funding for it. Sorry to interrupt you, Lisa, but they need to know that you get nothing.
So it's Birmingham and Solihull. So we run from the Solihull family hubs, but we support families in Birmingham, and we support families from anywhere, don't we? Whoever needs it, but predominantly Birmingham and Solihull.
Even if it's just somebody who is just curious about somebody I know might be autistic, and how do I...
So you must get a massive referral rate of people, person to person, onto you.
We do. I was going to say we get kind of from professionals. We get it from some schools. We get it from word of mouth. You know, obviously lots of people kind of, you know, just
coming from health.
Health. The family hubs are always kind of saying.
So where are you based then? What is the location people can come to?
So the family hubs in Solihull.
In Solihull,
is kind of where the drop-ins are.
Oh right, okay.
I was going to say that's the main. So
and are you there every day?
No, every Tuesday. So we're there every Tuesday, 9:30 till 12.
So if I could give you one dream each now then, of what kind of support you need, what would you say you actually need today to enhance what you're doing?
I think the biggest thing for us, I mean, it's never been about money for us. It's about kind of, I think it's being able to go out and support young people to understand their brains.
Wow.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
But for us to be able to do that, obviously we do need to be able to have a venue. We do need to be able to do all those things. Yeah. But that is the dream. It's not kind of about us two.
It should come from right at the beginning. They should be taught at nursery about their brains, and as they get older, neurodivergence should be embraced. They shouldn't be made to feel that they're different. It's ridiculous that kids are still feeling pushed out and bad.
Absolutely.
For things they can't control.
Well, I went through it as a child. My son's autistic. He went through it, and I remember him saying to me in primary school, "I'm not the same, am I, Daddy?" Yeah. And I just said to him, "No, you're not."
No.
I said, "You're so much more amazing."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and
well, all 6 of mine are neurodivergent, but they're all different, and they will all say, "Well, that's not my autism." Why does he do that? Because that's not my autism. So kids need to understand that, you know, they might have the same title, but what does it mean for them? And that's what we've been trying to do,
across the board, isn't it? So it is, you know, the way we kind of come from the stance that we come is that, you know, from the neurodiversity lens. So it is that everybody's brain is different, you know, not just an autistic person or somebody with ADHD or, you know, Tourette's. Everybody has got a different brain. Yeah. And that's okay. You know, it's literally is embracing that differences, because actually if you look at, you know, I'm very, very biased, but if you look at, you know, some of our ADHD individuals or autistic individuals, they are just the most amazing, you know, young people with the most amazing brains. And I think they're being wasted because they are literally being squeezed into these little boxes. And it's just a case of, right, okay, just set them free, you know, let them be who they want to be. Yeah. And embrace that instead of kind of going, right, okay, no, you know, you've got to do this or you've got to do that. I think that's what people are scared of. Yeah. I think they're scared that actually if you unleash these neurodivergent individuals
What's
onto the
gonna happen?
world. What are we going to do? What can we
Well, we're
achieve?
catching up in numbers, I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
We really are.
Definitely.
You know, in the other countries like Iceland, we are the majority now.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I remember being in school and, you know, I didn't go to lessons. I didn't give a shit about lessons, if I'm honest. I liked to play football and basketball, and yet I aced all my exams, and they said I was cheating. How about that?
Ugh.
So I actually didn't sit any final exams
Yeah.
at all. What they didn't realise is they kept locking me in the library, right? Out the 4,736 books in there, there was only one I didn't read.
Wow.
I read every single book.
What
And
was
the
one
one-
you didn't read?
Moby Dick. I hadn't
What's
got
wrong
a
with
fucking
Moby
clue what it was on. Couldn't understand it. Some fellow, you know, a little boat going to kill a whale. That ain't
A
gonna
little
work.
bit more substance, yeah.
That was never going to work for me.
Doesn't make sense.
So now you're like grassroots community, and you are helping people with autism, ADHD, and Tourette's. Do you feel, from a school perspective now, that they're helping you more now or less now?
Less, I would say. I just think there's massive barriers to schools wanting to kind of. I think for us, we say things from a neurodivergent perspective.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always align with what people want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's not just with schools, I think that's with everybody. I think people kind of like to be able to tell you what you know, where you sit in things.
Yeah.
And we don't bend to that. You know, we have lived experience. We know what it feels like,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, to be autistic or ADHD or whatever it is. And actually, you know, I'm not happy with somebody telling me that I'm not allowed to kind of say those things, that I'm not allowed to say that, you know, this is how I feel, because actually as an autistic person, an ADHD person,
It is
that
exactly.
my
It's exactly how you
experience,
feel.
and that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
and I
totally
think
agree.
it's the same as our children when they're kind of saying, oh, well, they're not allowed to swear, or they're not allowed to say this, or they're not allowed to. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. And you should be listening to that, because if they're swearing or they're behaving in a certain way, that's because they're communicating.
Well, that's their
something
voice
to
at that
you.
moment.
Absolutely.
That's all that is.
Absolutely. And that needs to be listened to. And schools do not want to listen to children's voices. And I think, you know, it's a massive loss, because they could be doing, I keep coming back to, they could be doing incredible things with
Yes,
young
indeed.
people.
So we're hopefully going to do a few interviews over the next few weeks and months, and you know what I want you guys to think about when you're not here is the specifics of things that we can address here. So, you know, 100,000 to 1 million people see it. But I also want you to think about other stuff that you could use, that people will, because people will come forward now and they'll say to me, okay, we want to help with this. How do we do it? So what I want you to do, I want you both to look at the camera. I want you to speak. I want you to give them the website address, a contact telephone number.
We don't do telephone.
You don't do telephone.
We don't do
We really are
telephone.
divergent now, aren't we? Okay then, but we have a website address,
We
don't
do
we?
have a website, yeah.
That's the website address.
Right, okay, so if you want to contact us, our website is www.supersencic.co.uk, and you can email us on supersencic, so that's a CIC, at gmail.com, and our email is always open to anybody that, you know, has any questions about, you know, whether you think that you're neurodivergent yourself, or you need support with a family member that is neurodivergent. We're always there to listen.
Thank you for that.
No.
Now, I just want to recall on a couple of stories that I told you last week. I remember being on holiday, my little boy, he was about 6 at the time, and you have to say it exactly how it is, all right? So we're on the beach, and he says to me, Daddy, I need a wee. I said, go and have a wee in the sea. So I'm lying there, then I realised what I'd just said, because I knew he wasn't going to go in the sea. And as I looked up like this, he stood on the edge of the water weeing in the sea. And all these French people are going, tut, 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 like this. So I stood up and stood next to him, and I had a wee in the sea. That's where the fight started.
Yeah.
And we had to leave. But it's things like that you remember. You know, I also remember being on a train going into Birmingham, and Oliver was madly into Thomas the Tank Engine, big time. So I remember sat there one day, and he's opposite me like this, and he keeps looking over my shoulder like this. I'm thinking, who's that? Because I didn't want to turn around So he said, I'll be back in a minute, Daddy. He got up, he walked past me. I thought, I'll just sit here because he can't get out of the carriage. And I heard him say to this chap, are you the fat controller? At this point, I felt as if I should turn around. So I did. And then this huge guy went, I am, yeah. Can I see your ticket? And he went, just like nodding, I'll be back in a moment. He got his ticket, and the guy just wrote something and gave him back. There are some beautiful people out there who do recognise what's going on around them. And I think that the more stories we tell like that as well, the easier it is, you know, I call them normal people who don't accept us, will understand what we're trying to do.
Oh, that's it, isn't it? Things like that in school would be taken as literal and rude, and you'd be punished for that.
That word literal is used so many times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't understand something, we're literal. Or if we do something because they told us to do it, we're literal.
Yeah.
It's a little unfair.
I remember my son saying, so when he was 6, and we were having trouble getting him into school, and their teacher, well, it was the deputy head, had came out to kind of support us to get him into school. And she's got hold of him and she said, right, she said, you know, Billy, you need to get into school. She said, you know, this is the rules. And he just looked at her, bless her, and he just went, what, because I'm 6 and you're an adult? When was that fair? And she kind of looked at me as if he was, you know, kind of, you know, address him, and I just went, you answer him. Because no, it isn't fair. It's not fair.
But don't you think there's so many teachers just ignore the question, give an answer that's nothing to do with the question anyway? You know, and I've experienced that with my lad. You know, and it's just not fair, because your child's expecting you to give them an answer. You look at the school to give you an answer, support, and they just let you know, this is your kid. You've got to,
and it's difficult because then I'm autistic, so I agree with everything that he's saying. So I'm kind of going, well, you know, you tell him then, because I don't get what the problem is. So I suppose you've kind of got that as well, where you're going, oh, well, you know.
Well, even more recently, last year before last, Oliver was taking his A-levels, and he came home and he says, Dad, the maths teacher's an idiot. And I was like, what? You got to give me more than that.
You know, he probably is then, if he says it.
So he said, he's teaching us wrong. I know more than he does, and he's wrong. He said, and I've set up a meeting for you to come and meet him. I was like, oh, brilliant, okay then, cool. Good job, I'm a mathematician, isn't it? So I said to this chap, okay, why is Oliver wrong in what he's saying? And he said, because of this, this, and this, and this. I said, so why don't we all do the math again here right now? He says, and he turned to me and he went, well, you won't know how to do it. Really? Big mistake. So I said, okay, let's have a whiteboard each, which we did. Mine and Oliver's was identical, and his was wrong. And all I said to him was, I never need to come back again, because if I do, I'll make sure you lose your job. Anyway, he handed his notice in and left, so that's really cool. Me and Oliver like that, so it just made him unemployed. Nah, fuck it, we're still like that anyway.
My son does that to me. He says to the teachers, get my mum to come in and train you. I was like, no, you can't say that, son.
But if
You did that wrong, get my mum to come in and train you.
Don't you think though, if he can see that they're actually doing it wrong and his mum is doing it right, I think he has every right to say that. I think he has every right to say, I know someone who can help me with this instead of you. You know. Right then, that's the chat show. We've had 2 brilliant people on today, Lisa and Sarah, and they're going to be coming back, and we hope to see you soon. And I'd like to give you all, Lisa, Sarah, a round of applause if you will.